Hey, dear friends and followers, first, in light of the situations of this past weekend, as well as the COVID-19 pandemic, I have received this shirt in the mail today, and I love it because I am in the process of joining Costco to replace my Sam's Club membership at some point. And I will be officially doing that sometime in the next couple days. But anyways, let me discuss the rope that's in the room here. First off, well, I got that long before any of this stuff broke out. I've had that rope now for a couple years, and during my arena practices where I'm photographing, I also take the time to talk with some of the horsemen and have them show me how to use it. Because roping a dummy, roping cattle, and roping a person all are to achieve the same effect. They are not to injure anyone, but they are to subdue a subject. In the event of an emergency such as cattle escaping, or perhaps a roper, let's say, gets injured in the arena, or let's say something happens out on the road that we shall not talk about on this episode. Sometimes people are very brutal to each other. Hatred runs rampant, and I've seen plenty of hatred in the trucking business. I admit, I've given people the rawr. Yeah, I don't want to show it on this episode, because YouTube will probably take me down for showing that middle finger. Oh, the bird, as I'll call it, a few times. And I don't intend to be racist under any circumstance, okay? In fact, I love listening to the stories of all people, and especially, I've had a few friends that are black. I'm going to be honest with you about that. Now, some of them I have not talked to in many years. So, if you could reach out to me in the comments below or on the wine line if you are one of those people who I've been with for any length of time at all. Okay? Now that that's out of the way, let's get started with this episode and talk two things: police brutality and self-defense. Coming up. So let me talk with you about brutality right now. Police have been very brutal to truck drivers, and especially to truck drivers of color, because of very minor stuff. It's like that group gets hit harder than anyone. And then the second group that gets hit hard is people like me who have disabilities. Because those cops do not understand your situation. They do not understand your position, and they've never been in your shoes. Okay? So, dealing with cops is part of the trucking job. You will have to deal with them at some point. And this goes out to all you rookie drivers out there, as well as to those of y'all who are just getting back into trucking, or perhaps buying a truck. Just because you drive something with either a bed or a trailer on it, your chances of getting pulled over are significantly higher than the chances of someone else getting pulled over for the same offense. And the reason is because you're covered under special regulations, specifically those of the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, an agency that got started in 2000 by the William and Hillary Clinton. Yeah, them two. Bill and Hillary have really caused problems for this industry. Because prior to them establishing this safety agency, and this was, by the way, just before George W. Bush took office, so bear that in mind. But the Department of Transportation, NHTSA, and the Commerce Commission were all regulating trucking. It was the same rules, just provided by a different agency. But now that it's all under this consolidated agency, and has been for the last 20 years, the motor carrier industry in general, and people of color in particular, have been disproportionately abused by those in power. And particularly cops, but also government officials as well. And it really needs to be addressed. There needs to be more diversity training on their end, and more training on dealing with people who have certain morbidities and conditions. So that way, the cop can more calmly react in a situation, like perhaps dealing with his own emotions and dealing with other people, such and such. And that's my stand on the cops. There's no excuse why that man in Minnesota got murdered. And that cop and his accomplices all seriously have some splaining to do. Not just on the trial where the video evidence clearly showed it, but also to the entire world as a whole. Because we as citizens of the United States of America will not stand for police brutality by those who are in charge. And here in Texas, we have this little doctrine called castle law, where if anybody enters your property without permission, you have the right to do anything, including kill them, in order to protect your life and the lives of those who you live with. That's the law, and that is strictly enforced. Now, does that law extend to your truck? Well, if you own or lease your truck, yes. But your company's policies may also apply. So check with them, and if you're crossing state lines, you're going to need to know the laws of all the other states you're going to. So let's talk about personal protection coming up. So defending yourself against others. When that person in the position of power, whether it be an attacker or a cop who's gone insane or anyone else, decides to attack you while you're in your truck or in the truck stop, here's a few measures I would take if I were in that situation. First, remain calm and try to explain what you're doing to that person. Don't yell, don't shout, don't argue, because your life is the one that's in danger. Number 2, do call for assistance. And number 3, if it comes, and this is if you're being attacked, use any tool in your power, including the truck itself, to defend yourself and your life against that other group or person. Now, here in the U.S., and it may be this way in other countries as well, pedestrians are strictly prohibited from walking on the interstate. Now, there's a lot of pedestrians who disobey that law for whatever reason, because their car breaks down, or they're trying to get somewhere and can't get a ride, or whatever. We call them hitchhikers. And you see them all the time walking along the interstate, trying to hitch a ride with somebody. Do not fall for it. Always keep your doors locked and keep your vehicle moving. Do not stop for any reason. If a group of protesters walks out in front of you, do not stop. Now, if your vehicle has auto brake, like my Tundra does and like my Cascadia does, this may be a problem. And you need to know how to override that system. If you've got a herd guard or a plow on the front of your vehicle, those can actually help you a little bit in this situation, but not much. So, that's if you get attacked, though. Now, on my next segment here, we're going to talk about how to prevent getting attacked and better your odds of giving yourself time should the attack occur. So let's talk prevention here. What steps can you take to slow an attacker and make him think? Because, I mean, these guys are attacking from both outside and in. Especially if they're involved with a couple of terrorist groups that I've mentioned already. Antifa, well, they're being very militant. They're being very hateful. And they're causing a lot of the rioting action. Along with people of the certain left-leaning parties, especially the Democrats. And number two, we've got other terrorist groups like People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, or PETA for short, that have been attacking trucks for years. This kind of terrorism has to be stopped in its tracks. And to that end, now, I did mention those two groups in particular, but there are others out there. And you, as a driver, are the last line of defense between yourself and your load. Now, if you own your own truck and are operating in-state, many states have castle laws that apply to your truck and yourself. Here in Texas, for example, if you truck in-state and you're a lease purchase driver or an owner-operator, castle law applies to you. If you're not one of those two drivers, and instead you're employed straight up by a company who buys their own equipment, castle law will not apply to you in that case, and instead your company's policy will apply. And most company policies say no weapons. So, by me saying that, it means you will probably need to find some other means to defend yourself besides a gun or a knife. Doing steps to slow somebody down and keep them from getting in your truck is always a good idea. One step in particular is putting the driver's seatbelt and passenger seatbelt through the doors whenever you're sleeping. Now, this will cost you a couple seconds if, let's say, a fire breaks out in your truck. But if your life depends on it and you're trying to keep people out, definitely do it. Because, I mean, that's a risk I'd be willing to take. Another safety measure that I would suggest you use is to make sure that you have clear and open access to all the tools on your truck. And if you don't have tools like screwdrivers, fire extinguisher, triangles, etc., you need to get them. Because remember, every tool you have is another tool that can be used against one of these terrorists. So, 10 millimeter socket on a ratchet, that can be used. Fire extinguisher, that can most certainly be used in two different ways. One of which is throwing the can out, and the other way is to literally pull the pin and treat him as a fire. Or her. Well, I haven't seen too many of the females being terrorists, but I have seen a lot of guys doing it, so I'm going to say him. Keys can always be taken across the neck or used as nunchucks. In some states, nunchucks are illegal. In other states, they're perfectly legal. Check with your company policy and your, state laws for details. You can use, I'm going to get something here that I keep on my keyring. A bottle opener can also be used as a weapon. Of course, keys can be used as a weapon as well. Same procedure, and you can already see how that one just left a mark. And I didn't even do it that hard. And let me think of some other things that can be used as weapons if somebody tries to get in your truck. Let me think here. Any sort of cleaner or sanitizer will sting when it gets into the attacker's eyes. Don't be shy about using that. I'm just using this sanitizer here right quick. And, I mean, even on my neck it stings a little bit. Just imagine if it gets in the eyes. And that's just a few tools that can be used to defend yourself. So, like I said, seatbelt, keys, bottle openers, ratchet and socket set, triangles, fire extinguisher. Those can all be used in self-defense. And you probably will be less likely to get charged than you would if you were to use an actual murder weapon. Like a gun or a knife. Oh yeah. And let's talk about that rope for a minute. I keep that here at home most of the time. Now, if I'm going to an arena practice, or I'm going to somewhere where I know that I'm going to be in danger with my pickup truck, or anywhere that I'm going to be dealing with cattle, I will often take that with me so that I can be sure that I have the right tool for the job. Now, we're going to talk about filming. Now, I do have a couple different phones that I use, and I also have a couple different cameras as well. So, let's talk about that right now. In my left hand here is a Canon EOS M50. This is one of many different cameras that I own. And this is one of the cameras I take out on the road also to film. I'm filming this episode with my phone right now as well. I also have a regular dash cam and an action cam. And I'm not afraid to use them. The reason why is because these can be used as evidence in court when the terrorist hits your truck, or when the person in another truck hits your truck, or when there's any sort of problem out on the road. Documentation is key to determining causes, to determining others' actions, and to provide an additional layer of security should you need it. Check with your company's policies on dash cams for details. Because I know that, well, I can't film when I'm at one of our hubs, for example, that I can film here at home, and I can film out on the road. I oftentimes do film while I'm in the sleeper berth. Occasionally I do it from the passenger seat also. And my company has gone so far as to install cameras that not only protect me, but also protect the truck. These cameras, called LitX drive cams, which I've talked about on an earlier episode, can make the difference between catching a criminal and not catching one in this kind of an environment. So between your phone camera, a regular camera like the one I was just showing, and the drive cam, or another, let me check my bag right quick, because I have a similar dash cam that you can get on the cheap. And it's probably going to be somewhere. Hang on, y'all, I'm grabbing it. You can get a cheap dash cam like this Pilot dash cam from Walmart for around $30. And even it can provide a little bit of additional protection in the event that someone tries to attack you, by providing video evidence that you can take to court. And it really is simple to use. You just plug it in, turn it on, and hit record. So, between dash cams and a regular still camera and your phone, you'll have all kinds of evidence when the need arises. And let's not forget that I also have a small action cam up in the studio as well. And it was a cheap one off Amazon too. So, yeah, us truckers are preparing ourselves for vigilante mayhem out on the highways. We're trying to keep each other informed. We're trying to stay safe. And we encourage you to do the same. Now, if there's anything else you want to share with me, please let me know down below. And my prayers go out to all victims of police brutality, regardless of their skin color, nationality, gender, religion, or anything else. If you've been a victim of police brutality, or if you've been a victim of these riots that are going on now afterwards, my prayers are with you and your family. And I hope this finds you in a safe environment. And we need to ensure that we all stay that way. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Again, down below in the comments. You can call the wine line at 325 400 1175. Yeah. And that will connect you to this phone right here, where you can leave a voicemail. And maybe I'll call you back. And maybe if I don't call you back, well, you might be featured on a future video. And if you need immediate assistance from me, you can call my primary phone at 851 3864, and I'll be happy to chat with you. And by the way, if you want to talk some stories with me and how some of my actual some of my friends and followers have actually helped me during trying times, you can do that. If you want to talk about how I've gotten along with black co-drivers, yes, I've had black co-drivers before. And they're just as good as white ones. They go through the same training. They go through the same experience. The only difference is their life story, gosh. I mean, how they grew up is going to be different than how I grew up. That's a fact. But we can definitely talk about that. We can talk about... I want you to tell your story to me. And I'm not ashamed to talk. Okay? I may not answer the phone at first. Because oftentimes I do get spams and robocalls and such. But if you leave me a message on either my wine line or my primary line, you will get an answer of some kind. And I'm not ashamed to talk about racism either. In the end, racism has no business in trucking. And I feel bad for those who have been affected by it. Whether it be caused by a disability like I have, or the color of their skin. There's no business for anyone to be a racist against anyone else. And one more thing. If you want to really make someone's day and help stop the crimes that are going on at the truck stops and with these groups, lead by example. So if you see someone who's in a poor situation and needs a meal, buy him a meal. Better yet, another way to lead by example is to just buy a meal for the person behind you who's standing in line, of course with social distance, at the restaurant. Or buy for the person at the truck stop counter behind you if it's a minor purchase. No, it's not going to buy them out of whatever they're dealing with. But what it will do is allow them to share their story with you and help them make their day go a little better. So until next time, let's stay safe out there. Let's make your best trip your next trip. Keep learning, keep thinking, keep on trucking safely, and stay safe out there, y'all. Because I know that we've got trying days ahead. And again, if you want to share your story with me directly, call 817-851-3864. If you want to share your story on a video on a future episode, 325-400-1175. That's the phone numbers to call. And that's +1 here in the United States. If you're calling from outside the country. Until next time, I'll catch you later. And I would like to thank all of y'all who have posted in the Facebook groups and helped me stay abreast of the situation here. And to those of y'all having to take risks and go into these cities, I'll be praying for your safety as well. Bye for now.